in this country is tax. It is tax because it is itemized, and you can tell that this is the percentage that is going to fuel levy, this is the percentage that is going to VAT. I gave you the example that the 8% increase that we added on the VAT for fuel is responsible for 14 shillings. Now, it is just a matter of math. If you have added 8% and it is resulting in an increase of 14 shillings, if you take away 8%, it should take away even the petrol. It has had the opposite effect. The revenues that were expected to be raised by government are not being realized. It is also not true that the current regime is not borrowing to finance recurrent expenditure. The Control of Budget told us the other day that in the period between April and June, government debt grew by 860 billion. Essentially, we are fully 10 billion shillings a day. That is not me. That is the Control of Budget. We have also been told, Trevor, that because of the cost of living, the margin of increase in the quality is the office of the president. So don't let these people not tell us many stories. The very clear solution to this problem is known. First of all, we all need to tighten our belts. You cannot be asking Wanjiku, you cannot be asking Mama Mboga and Boda Boda to tighten their belts, yet your belt, you have even removed it and thrown it away. You are spending through 2.3 billion shillings. I gave you the example last time we were here. The office of the deputy president put out an advertisement for seafood, supply of seafood. And it is at the expense of our taxpayers' money. You should cut that spending first before you tell Kenyans to tighten their belts, you know. So the problems are known, the solutions are known. We asked for a reprieve. We even told them that because Kenyans are suffering, please reinstate that subsidy. Yeah. At some point, they tried to reinstate it. They reinstated it in part. Yeah. Then they called it something else, fuel stabilization. Because these people, they fear doing the right thing because they say Sifuna and the opposition will take credit. Yeah. That is not our intention. Our intention is not to say, oh, we were right and you were wrong. Please, just solve the Mwananchi problems. Let the country move on so that we can discuss other things. You asked a very important question about immediate things and interventions that we can do or we are proposing to do, so that Kenyans can feel some reprieve. Me and Khalwale are legislators. We sit in the Energy Committee. And we have interacted with one of the major pain points, which is not just the cost of fuel, but the cost of electricity. And the report that the Energy Committee is going to present to the floor of the House, I believe is going to address some of the questions that you are raising, including an amendment that I've drafted to the energy bill, the Energy Act, to sort out a few issues in Kenya Power and in the supply of electricity generally. When we interacted with the sector players in the electricity sector, we, at least for me, I was able to isolate what people call engineering problems. For instance, they tell us about system losses of electricity because of the capacity of the transmission lines. Yeah. They need to build a few lines, Takwe, Roltum, Kitale, Bomet to, Narok to Bomet, then completion of the Mariakani substation to bring geothermal from the rift to the coast. Those are those engineering problems that we're talking about. Yeah. But there are also Ukora problems. And those are the ones that my bill seeks to address. Yeah. We have proposed as a committee that we have an amendment to the Energy Act, so that we deal with three issues. The first one on your bill, Kenya Power used to send us an itemized bill, where you could see each and every tax that is going, was coming from your pocket. And when the Senate began that inquiry, they changed the way in which they send you the bill. If you buy purchase tokens of 100 shillings now, they will not tell you what the fuel cost charge is. Yeah. They're trying to hide these things within other things so that the representatives of the people don't focus on them. So my bill is trying to address three things. Yeah. There's something called a capacity charge, that we pay for the capacity, whether that the capacity of the generating plant, whether that plant is actually selling electricity to Kenya Power or not. And to address that, we have said Kenya Power should not give any more power purchase agreements until the need for that new capacity is established. Number one. Number two, there is something called fuel cost charge. The fuel cost charge makes up to, if you buy tokens of 100 shillings, 24 shillings is for fuel cost adjustment. And that is as a result of all the electricity that is consumed that is generated using thermal sources. Yeah. So we need to grow our green energy sources, and we have said, proposed in that bill, because we have capacity of cheaper green sources of electricity. Yeah. That person who's called the dispatcher at Kenya Power should give priority to cheaper, greener electricity before dispatching what they call the thermal sources of electricity. And finally, we deal with the question of forex fluctuation by also addressing the question of the denomination of the loans that are used to construct these power plants in foreign currency. So there are things that we are doing as the legislature. There are things that we need to do from a government perspective, like the construction and completion of those lines that I've spoken about. But at least for us in the Energy Committee, and I'm a proud member of that committee together with my colleague Senator Khalwale, we are proposing measures that we think can help.
There's a lot of future with him because we expect them to discuss some of these problems within the legislative frames that they have, either in Senate or in Parliament. I'm proud when I hear that as a member of the Energy Committee, he's involved in looking at solutions to some of these problems and not carrying sufuria, wasting time in the street and lying to
Point of order.
I'm sorry.
Point of order.
So yeah, I also agree with him on the point of order because that also supports the ego of the people who voted him, whom he said they must cry together, at least so that they get some solace. But let me go back to the issue of our problems. It is important that as a nation, whether in government or in opposition, that we become patriotic to our country and look at our problems objectively. First of all, we must agree that we are in a bad place, as Dr. Khalwale puts it, and we must also agree on the factors that there is a general global economic meltdown, which is a problem to all nations in the world, following our problems with COVID-19, following the problems we are now facing in the war in Ukraine, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, we must also agree that the way we had handled our public debt was so bad and was quite careless. Before the former Prime Minister got into handshake, and the Secretary General for his party is here, they really quarreled about issues of overborrowing and so on and so forth, until now when they went to bed together, and that became history. But we cannot be people who keep on crying and going back to mistakes that were made. It's only that we have to agree on how we are going to correct our problems. For example, when we talk about taxation, we must ask ourselves, where did this problem, why did we have to, why did government have to increase tax to the extent that it has happened? Because when you say tying our belts, it also includes, because we always say there is no gain without pain. This government came into place and found the treasury was completely robbed. There was virtually nothing. And that we had very huge debts. That meant that if we could not pay our debts, we could not service our debts, then our economy was going to be insolvent. And we were going to be in a worse situation. I've always told people that at times, you find you can go to a kiosk and get a soda at 30 bob or 40 bob. But you go to Serena and buy a soda at 300 and you don't complain, simply because you have the money. So if I look at the history of the country from the time I was born up to now, cost of items have never been the same. They have always kept on increasing and increasing and increasing, and they're not going to come down. If you look at things like fuel, the number of vehicles we had in 1975 or 1980, and the number of factories, the consumption, the demand was quite low. You can't compare to the demand that we have today. And therefore, this will call for us investing in alternative measures, like what the President was saying the other day. We need to improve on our megawatts in electricity, in terms of wind power, in terms of solar, in terms of generally green energy and hydro that we have. You know very well, under the East African community, we have Congo here with huge falls that maybe if we come together and we agree on the best way as East African community on how we can help we are told that the kind of power that we can generate would be so much, and that would form an alternative to the problems that we have today.
Yeah.
So what happens is that with us having more electricity, we could have more electric vehicles, we could have more electric motorcycles, and so on and so forth. But most importantly, we should ask ourselves, Kenya, I can see you are in a hurry, but just give me a minute. Kenya is in a very, very good geographical location where we are. We have just been doing the port of Mombasa, the port of Lamu under the LAPSSET. Currently, the port where we are carrying out transshipments is deep in the south. The port of Koega is in South Africa, and South Africa is very far from East Africa. Is closer to the direction of the east, that is China, Singapore, and the rest, and also closer to the Middle East, and also closer to Europe through Egypt. But what is happening is that if the port of Mombasa would be able to receive bigger ships, and therefore that means that the transshipment that is currently taking place at port of Koega could easily be transferred into the port of Lamu. And he talked about terrorism issues, the issues we are facing in Lamu and such areas. Those are the things that we should be looking at. And talking about what we call land bridges, having our roads from, roads or railways, the road bridges from Kenya to Uganda, to Central Africa, to West Africa, and then to Europe, so that we give an alternative to the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. If that place is blocked, then trade and business is done. That is the same thing they have done from Los Angeles to New York and then to Canada, quite a long distance. So Kenya is in a very good position globally. I heard him talk about Meg. I was so impressed. I saw her trying to sell Kenya in San Francisco the other day. So I know the bitterness he has with Meg, but I'm saying that let us also look at the positive part. No, he's still crying, which is normal. And he told me that he's crying so that he can be able to recover from the shock.
Yes, Sifuna, you're the point of order. By bringing Sifuna.
I think one of the things that we also have to agree is that, you know, under the Leadership in Integrity Act, it is actually a crime for which you should be jailed for a public officer to give false information to the public. So that when William Ruto was deputy president, first you must acknowledge that the debt that we are discussing here was piled up during the period when he was deputy president of the republic from 2013 to 2022. And there has to be some level of responsibility that he takes in that particular problem. Number two, when he was addressing the cost of fuel the last time as deputy president, I remember him speaking outside the deputy president's official residence, flanked by the usual gang that have now ended up as cabinet secretary. And at that particular time, for him, the war in Ukraine had no relation whatsoever to the question of cost of living in this country. Climate change was not a factor for him. In fact, he singled out state capture and cartels within the oil sector as the single reason why Kenyans were paying very high prices at the pump. Now, he is there now. He's there now. He told us that within us, I think it was 90 days, he will destroy all these cartels. And for the first time in the history of this country, fuel is retailing at above 200 shillings. That is the legacy that William Ruto is leaving. So what happened to that story? Where is the sense of responsibility? Will we see Ruto come and say, sorry to the Mwananchi, to the Wanjiku, to the boda person and the Mamamboga, that I lied to you? And that, as David Ndii says, you are fools to have believed my lies. And that now, because, you know, they also claim to be very prayerful people, at the very least, will we see some penance, that they will go for repentance? Can we call a crusade? You know, they like those things. For national repentance of the people who found themselves in power through false pretenses. Can they come to Kenyans and own up and say, yes, we did, we said, these are things he said.
Let him finish.
These are things he said. He's on public record. At the very minimum, they owe Kenyans an apology. Let them come out and say, yes, we lied to get or to obtain your vote. We don't know what we are doing, but we need help. We need help. And I have told my brothers here off the record that in fact this country has a lot of talent. And that talent, we are not saying that you include people from Azimio. No, we are not interested. Even within Kenya Kwanza, there are people who I know for a fact have capacity to do better than people like Moses Kuria and these other clowns that are in public office. So why can't we avail ourselves? Why can't the president avail himself of the talent that is within UDA that we know for a fact are much, much better, can perform better than the people that he has banked on? So what we expect is, at the very minimum, an apology, an acknowledgement that yes, we fooled you, you are fools, but at the very minimum, we are sorry. Then number two, some of the discussions that are coming from my brother here, I am also very impressed that you have learned very much from Raila because he was the infrastructure envoy in Africa for the AU. And some of the discussions that we are having here are things that we have seen and spoken about for a very long time. For instance, the question of power from the DRC, it is Baba who was championing the construction of the Inga Dam that would sort out the entire region in terms of the sort of power that we expect to have. We import power from Ethiopia. And by the way, even though it comes all the way from Ethiopia, it is cheaper than some of these IPPs here. It is one of the cheapest. I think they told us it's less than 6 US cents per kilowatt hour. And if you compare with IPPs that are producing here, 4 or 5 times more than that. So it is something to be encouraged, the construction of all those road corridors that he's talking about. If we had gotten this thing right, for instance, Charles, if we had built a proper railway in the manner in which Ethiopia built theirs, a double line, going the whole hog from the port of Mombasa to Malaba, as was envisioned by Baba and Kibaki, instead of the characters we elected in 2013, including your new boss, Ruto. If they had built the railway in the manner in which it had been envisaged, we would be talking a different language. But now, what responsibility?
I think the cow. Are you getting me? There is nothing. Alwala is here, I will tell you. There was nothing left. These guys, these two brothers.
So where's the money for
these two brothers took everything. And also, you know, Sifuna, nobody, no Kenyan hates Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. He's loved for what he's done before. The only problem is refusing to accept defeat. And he knows why he didn't win. You know, me, Sifuna is his friend, and they are family friend. Me is my brother. I can't change it. Not even brother by being a Luo. We share a great-grandfather.
Oh.
Are you getting me?
He's your relative.
Yes, he's my relative. Okay. And it's a fact. He cannot come here and deny it. We share same DNA, and we don't hate him. Yeah. We love him so much, and what we need to do is to unite this country. Sifuna, when we sit separately, he knows how the election was lost. So Sifuna, even when you cry, you
How was it?
I know, it was stolen.
No.
Come on.
No. Why was yours not stolen?
Mine was not stolen.
No, why was yours not stolen?
Because it is not as consequential
No.
How was it lost, Jack?
Yeah. It is.
How was it?
How was it lost?
Now that you say you people know.
How it was lost? Yeah. They mismanaged their campaigns.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. They never even protected their vote. In fact, they did not even have agents.
Okay.
You see,
let's not go there. Let's not go there.
But let me just ask him one question. Owino, why is there a need to protect votes? From what? Why does anyone need to protect votes?
Why do you need a server?
No, I'm just asking you.
My question is,
why do you need to protect votes?
Fine.
Against what?
Why do we have a server?
No, a server is just a technological advancement to collect
results. Is it for protection?
No, that's what I'm asking you.
No. Is it for protection?
It's not for protection. I'm asking you, why in an electoral system that is supposed to be free and fair, why do I need agents? Why? Why do I need agents in an election?
Why is it in our process we need to take records?
I think Supreme Court disagrees with that.
Your party did not even carry out nomination.
Let's
Goja. Excuse me, I was with him.
Yeah.
His party did not even carry out nomination.
What do you mean? I'm the SG of ODM. We carried out nomination.
Where? I was a candidate.
You lost the nomination.
I did not.
Halwale, we
disagree with him. And this was the discussion during the finance bill. Unfortunately for me and Halwale, we sit in the Senate where we cannot initiate or discuss these money bills. But as leaders, I have lended my voice on this show everywhere. that I have spoken and tried to convince our brothers that, in fact, something can be done to reduce the cost of fuel. But they have refused because this money, these taxes that they're collecting, is what is going for the entertainment bill of 2 billion shillings at State House. When Charles Owino tells us about finding the coffers empty, which is one of the biggest lies. One of the first things that happened, Charles Owino, when your government was sworn in, there was an allocation of almost, was it 800 million shillings for purchase of vehicles for the office of Musalia Mudavadi, Gachagua, and Ruto. 800 million shillings. Where did that money come from to buy cars? If you found the coffers empty, what is funding all this, lifestyle that we're talking about here? So let's address some of the things that Khalwale has also mentioned. He'll talk about the taxes and whether him, as a leader in Kenya Kwanza, can convince his government or his leadership to reduce some of those taxes. Just even the VAT alone, I said 14 shillings, if you reduce 14 shillings on the price of fuel, you have helped Kenyans. Now, he has alluded to the fact that Sifuna has changed. First of all, I will never change, Trevor. I am who I am and I am the way that I am. I will never, ever down the rights that have been given to me under Article 37 of the Constitution. I am not a one-trick pony, Khalwale. I can do many things at the same time, depending on the environment that I find myself in. Even if today we are unable to convince you in the bipartisan talks and we decide we're going back to the streets, I ride with my sufuria in my car. When we leave here, Trevor, that sufuria that I wear on my head is still in my car because at any moment, at very short notice, I might be required to be in the streets. And that is what my constitution guarantees me. So it's not about being a one-trick pony. You can do many tricks depending on the environment. Khalwale, you and me have this relationship where we can talk. The way that you approach me or the way that I approach you determines how and which tool I pick up. If you come with a stone, like you did in Kibera, you also found out that I also have stones, So, but if you sit in your nice suit like this, the way we sit in the Energy Committee, and we say, let us look at the issues that affect Kenyans, we come up with legislation. So it is not to say that Sifuna has changed, and I will never change. I want to give that assurance to Kenyans.
We say you have improved.
Finally, there is this question of public transportation that he has alluded to, the president signing a bill on electric vehicles. First of all, the problem has never been the fuel that we are using. Because even if you transfer the problem, the bus today is using diesel, you are unable to afford diesel. You transfer it to electricity, and the electricity cost has gone up 63% since you people took power. What are you telling Kenyans? And Khalwale did a very nice public participation in his constituency. He tried to convince those border boys, people who have maybe gone halfway, three-quarter way of paying their loans for the petrol motorcycles that they have right now. Then Khalwale tried to convince them that the president is going to bring them these electric motorcycles. You know what happened? They were not interested in those stories. First of all, we sort out the infrastructure, Khalwale. Even if you're bringing these electric buses, to which roads are you bringing them? We had this discussion about bus rapid transport for years. If you go to cities like Dar es Salaam, you don't have to go to Amsterdam like Khalwale. That is too far for me. Because of me, I rotate around the East African region. In Dar es Salaam, they have one of the best BRTs. They built separate lanes. What we try to do on Thika Road is to annex an existing lane and paint it red. That was done under the Jubilee government, which Ruto was part of. There's never been a government called Handshake. We know the Jubilee government of William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. So first you sort out the infrastructure. You go to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. They built a light rail across Addis for 45 billion shillings. And I have argued here, for instance, that if we had a national government that had goodwill, we, the people of Nairobi, are owed over 100 billion shillings by national government institutions in terms of unpaid rates. If we had a president who was somebody who supports devolution, Khalwale has lied here that all the counties have money. It's a lie. The counties have not received money. And you're lying. Nairobi has not gotten money. We have not paid suppliers for months. So if we had a government that is foresight, a government with foresight, they would tell us that because we owe you people in Nairobi 100 billion shillings, let us give you 45 billion like was used in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, but we ring-fence it for the construction of the light rail across Nairobi. That is helping Nairobians. But for you to tell us now you are transferring to electric buses, there are bus companies, people have taken loans, they have invested. Some of the investment has not paid back. And then you tell them now, we are going to bring competition in terms of electric buses. You have not sorted out the roads. Okay. You are not helping the people of Nairobi. Right. And even when you say, oh, we were supporting our coalition's calls for people to walk, Khalwale, even without being told right now, people are walking to work because it's not Raila speaking now. It's their pockets. It's their pockets. They can't afford. People have left their vehicles at home. People are trying to, save an extra coin because fuel has become unaffordable. So these are issues that we have to look at.
And that it was a stopgap measure. Senator was asking me where the 800 million for buying cars came from. It was just daily collections. But I still remain, the treasury they left empty. Walikula pesa pamoja wakifanya campaign. Lakini that is now past. We now need to forge ahead and work together. I like most of the sentiments that he has come up with, trying to get solutions to the problems that we have. But most importantly is we need to work together as a nation to ensure that we are able to raise as much money as possible to ensure that people have as much money as possible in their pockets through business and other factors. I give an example of one of the most challenging matters which were in the finance bill, like the housing levy, the 1.5%. Most people did not understand what it was because you find that a civil servant, you could be deducted, let's say, 4,000 shillings, 2,000 from yourself and 2,000 from the employer. That amounts to 4,000 per month, and that is 48,000 per. That is 48,000 per year. 10 years is only 480,000. 20 years is only 960,000. That cannot enable you purchase a house. But the program is such that you find that government provides land for free, whether it is in the counties, like maybe where they've now started in Homa Bay, or in Nairobi, some of these areas. When government provides land for free, you find that almost 70% of the cost of the house, or let's say 60%, goes on land. Okay. And equally, this money that has been collected, let's say 9 billion per month, is money that is not taxed. So you find a house that would otherwise have costed a civil servant 12.5 million is sold at 3.5 million. Okay. It's ongoing. It's something that was partially even, the low-cost housing was even done by President Uhuru, though he did not succeed to implement the housing levy. Okay. But you find that this civil servant, in 20 years, he could still not raise even $1 million bob. Yeah. But this house, which would have costed him 12.5 million, would now cost him 3.5. He can take a loan and purchase it. This will ensure that people have houses. And even areas where we have a lot of pressure in land like Kisii, most people can now decide to live in Kisii town or in Nyamira if we have low-cost houses, and then transform their small land, instead of subdividing it as a family, use it for agriculture. Okay. But what I want to say is that if we work together, both government and opposition, and these policies that the president has tried to bring in, including the Hustler Fund and so on, we will be able to resuscitate this economy. We'll be able to make more money, many people in business, and most of these structures put in place will be able to generate us high revenue. I think next time maybe we'll have an opportunity to discuss on, have time to discuss on the programs that government has put in place that will be able to resuscitate the economy. All right. But for Sifuna, he must still discredit government as much as possible, because always opposition is government in waiting. I wish him best of luck. But I know what will happen is that the government, the economy is going to recover. The next 3-4 years, I think some of these discussions will not be there. Okay, Sifuna.
Charles, God hates a lying tongue. You people make us wish for the God of the Old Testament that would just strike you with lightning right now for lying to Kenyans. You come out and you tell people that this finance bill, you're happy because it lasts only 12 months. 12 months of suffering, your economic advisor is telling us it will achieve nothing. It is suffering for suffering's sake. you acknowledge yourself that even that levy, the housing levy, we will not be able to purchase houses with it. But you're insisting on deducting it from Kenyans. That money could have gone to do something else.
I thought you went
to raise the... No, let me just...
Have you not listened to my explanation?
You tell people that the hustler thing will be a hustler grant. You will give people money for them to lift themselves. Then you come and convert it into a fund. And you're very proud to say, oh, this is what we have achieved. My brother, I'm telling you, we wish the God of Leviticus would show up on this regime so that it strikes you with lightning immediately you lie to Kenyans. You people need to repent. What happened to those crusades used to call for repentance?
We are doing well.
Because you cannot be the same tongues, the same people who come to lie to Kenyans, and then when things go haywire, you have no clue what you're supposed to do or what you're doing. Then you say, oh, Sifuna must criticize government. It's not about criticism. I have said on this show that, Charles, please sort out the people so that we remain, me and you and Halwale, we deal with our issues at the political level. Whether I am crying about election results, and I have asked you, the tears are mine. They are mine. What is wrong with me crying my own tears? You have your own. So why does it bother you? Secondly, Trevor, I want to tell my brother Halwale that I am a firm believer in green energy. As a young legislator, I have come to appreciate that the challenges that face our planet for now, including the question of climate change, we must always think about innovative ways in which we can continue to provide mobility to our people. But the questions I'm asking myself, Halwale, and that is what was the problem in my view with your people in Malinya. You are telling people